Things are happening so quickly, you have to go. I wasted so much time looking through footage. So what I should have done is now I do it, and I think it makes my videos a lot better. Today, I'm going to tell you all the mistakes that I made when I first started shooting sports videos so that you don't have to make them. Yo, what's going on, guys? My name is Peter Sorellis. I am a videographer and editor from Toronto, Canada. I specialize in sports, events, and commercial content. And today I'm going over some of the mistakes that I made when I first started shooting sports videos and how you can avoid them. So the first big mistake that I made when I first started shooting sports videos is I used a variable aperture lens. So a variable aperture lens is a lens where as you zoom in, the aperture automatically changes. You don't have the same aperture throughout. So for example, if you have a lens that's like a 24-105 f4, that lens has an f4 aperture no matter what focal length you're at. But when I first started shooting sports, I used a lens that didn't have that consistent aperture. The aperture changed if I zoomed into a different focal length. And this created problems because I would be taking a shot, and depending on what focal length I was at, I would have a different exposure. And this would create images that didn't really look cohesive when I got back into an edit. So the first lens that I ever used for sports was the Canon 18-200 f3.5 to 5.6. I would be using this 18-200 lens to get my wide shots, and then all of a sudden someone would score and I would want to punch them for a close-up. So I would zoom in on that person for a close-up, but the aperture would automatically change from f3.5 to f5.6 and make my whole image darker. So then later in post, I would either have to deal with the fact that I had a sequence where one shot was darker than the other one, or I would have to lift the exposure on that darker shot and add more grain to it. I think the 18-200 was a great lens for me as a beginner because it just covered all my focal lengths and I could shoot whatever I wanted. But in a fast-paced event space like a sporting event, you don't have time to zoom in, let your aperture go down, and then adjust your ISO up accordingly to get the same exposure because things are happening so quickly, you have to go. So to have a variable aperture lens, it just messes up your exposure, it adds extra grain to your image when you're editing, it ruins cohesiveness, and I would just recommend getting a fixed aperture lens, whatever lens that may be, so that you can start shooting sports games and not need to worry about cohesiveness or exposure issues. Now the second mistake that I first made when I started shooting sports videos was I didn't take notes. I am not going to get too detailed into this because I made another video about sports videography where I talked about how I take notes and the shot lists that I take during the game to speed up my editing process. But basically, I wouldn't make any notes on my phone about what was happening during the games or what files I had. So instead of going into the editing bay with an idea of what I wanted the story to be and what shots I had to work with, I used to just go into my edit not knowing what I had with a bunch of files that I didn't remember anything about, and I wasted so much time looking through footage. Now I don't need to do that because I take notes. You should go watch my other video if you want to see exactly how I do that. But all I'm going to say is a big mistake that I used to make is I didn't take notes, and you should be taking notes to avoid having to look through footage. Another big mistake that I used to make when I started filming sports, and this applies specifically for basketball, but I guess you can apply this point to other sports as well, is I used to not follow the motion of the ball. And this seems kind of silly, but when I first started shooting basketball, I would film a player shooting the ball and then I would just whip the camera to the basket right away and get the shot of the ball going in. And like, this is fine. You can tell a story with someone shooting the ball and then you show the ball going in. But like, you're losing footage that you could have otherwise, and you're losing an opportunity to keep the viewer engaged because you're just having to show the start and the end, but they're not getting the whole sequence. So instead of just filming the player shooting the ball and then filming the end when the ball goes in, what I later started doing was I would film the player shooting the ball, I'd follow the ball with my camera, and then I would get the ball going into the basket because I'd been following the ball the whole time. And this allowed me to not cut my shot, but instead show a continuous motion throughout an entire action of a player shooting a basketball. And I think that that just makes my edit a lot better because I can kind of keep the viewer engaged in what's happening, and I like that a lot. Another really silly mistake that I kept making when I first started filming sports is I didn't move around enough. I didn't get enough coverage of the event. When I first started filming sports, a lot of the time I would be doing event coverage, so I would need to get footage of both teams. But instead of focusing on one team and then focusing on the other and making sure that I went to a lot of different places in the gym that I was in so I could show the full experience, I would just camp at center court so that I could film both teams at the same time. And I thought this was an effective strategy because I was able to film both teams. I could do double the work. But in reality, this was making my edits look really bland because almost every single shot that I had was from half court. There were no shots from the baseline. There were no shots from the crowd. I just felt the need to get every single basket recorded. And that's just not the case. You don't need to record every single basket if you're shooting basketball. You just need to show enough important baskets to convey a story. So what I should have done is probably film from the middle for a bit and get some footage of both teams, then go to one team's baseline, get some footage of them, get in the crowd, get some wide footage. That way I have a variety of shots to work with in my edit. I used to not do that, and it was a big mistake that made my edits less engaging. Now I do it, and I think it makes my videos a lot better. Tied into that, the last big mistake that I used to make when I was shooting sports videos is overshooting. I thought that I needed to capture every single basket. I thought that I had to record every single play, or else my edit was going to be terrible. And I was filming 6-7 hours a day for a 1-minute edit. I would record like 8 basketball games to put together this little video, and it just made absolutely no sense. Honestly, by overshooting, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're gonna get back to your editing bay with all that footage, and you're not even gonna have time to go through it, find all the best shots, and then make an edit that you're actually proud of. I know for a fact that I didn't, because it just took me so long to look through all that footage. So if you go into a game knowing what type of shots you're looking for, and with an idea of what you need to make the video you want, then you won't end up shooting as much footage, but you'll still get what you need, and then you'll be able to look through it all faster. You'll be able to get to actually making a creative edit faster, and you'll be more proud of your work. Now that I'm not overshooting and I have a more optimized workflow, I'm able to put more of my creative energy into every edit, and it makes my videos better. Alright, so that's going to be it for today. Those are the 5 mistakes that I used to make when I first started shooting sports videos. If you like this video, then please make sure to subscribe, because I am releasing content related to videography and my work as a videographer on a regular basis, and I would love to have you around for that. And if you think that there are any other big mistakes that people have made when they're starting to first shoot sports or other events that I missed, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to have a discussion with you down there. Alright, that is going to be it for today, so until next time.